Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all-new Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid, and with us today we have Sean Williams, the Cohiba brand ambassador, main man, whatever your title is these days.
Chief
But I
cook,
want
bottle washer. Yeah.
I want to welcome you back to Deep Cuts. I was looking up things today out of curiosity, and the last time you were on was May of 2020.
Wow. Oh, we're coveting. We were coveting together.
Yes, we were. So I thought a good icebreaker question for this conversation would be, how have you changed in the past 5 years?
Wow, it's a big question, man. I hope I've grown, right? If something or someone isn't growing or developing or improving in some way, then it's dying, right? So hopefully I've grown. Um, how have I changed? Well, I've lost weight since then. That's,
You
that's, that's,
posted a nice gym photo of yourself the other day.
Oh, and listen, that wasn't. I'm not.
Yeah,
Listen,
right.
man. Listen. That came from another place. I've lost some people here recently. Family, older family, but also in my football family. I'm an old football player from Grambling, right? So, and anytime we lose one of the Grambling football alum, we have this group online that we're always sort of chatting back and forth. And I've just been struck at how many people that I consider young are no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
And burying my uncle a few weeks ago, you sort of look around and take stock. I'm 56 years old, so we have the sort of my mom's generation, the World War II generation. That and I don't know about your family, how big your family is, but we're losing that tier of elders, and you look around, it's like, well, shit, like we're like next up as the elders, right? So I think about longevity a lot. Like, okay, my youngest daughter literally has gone off to college in a few weeks. So I think I really just kind of, not to be morbid, but I think a little bit more about my mortality now.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that, when you're younger, you take for granted. Time, chief among them, and as those I get, the more I realize the most valuable commodity I have is time. I've lost money and made money. I've had cars, lost cars. I've had property lost. You name the physical things. They come and go. Your time, man, you never get back, right? So that was sort of, I was just, and I don't remember exactly what I was thinking about that morning, but just like, more so for, the men of my age, who are not as diligent about going to the doctor or maybe caring for yourself properly. And listen, I'm no poster boy for being a model, patient as far as, being really, really diligent about medical health and I'm certainly not a gym rat by any stretch, but I care about my body, right? And I'm conscious about my health, and people see me on these videos, drinking, bourbon and tequila or, traveling someplace where, all that's cool, but, you have to be physically able to withstand, the travel, the time changes, the things of that nature. So there's just things I'm more conscious and cognizant about now than I was, 20, 25 years ago. There wouldn't have been a picture of me in Las Vegas working out first thing in the morning, a couple of decades ago, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just, you live long enough, hopefully, and you become wiser. So that was really, really just to hopefully maybe prick somebody's consciousness a little bit. That was it.
I know Damon John, in one of the many books he's written, he talked about that as well, about how when you get older, that you have a different association with time and wealth and the idea. He says, if you're chasing wealth, you should chase basically you should chase your personal health, and you should
Yeah.
be up on that as well. Like for those people who get up and they check their stock portfolios and stuff like that, he said that's cool, but if you have bad health, it's not going to help you in the end.
Not gonna matter. Not gonna matter one bit. Yeah, you're making the money to leave behind for somebody else, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm just saying.
Well, maybe. I think that I've seen people who've done a great job saving in their lifetime. Something happens, they pass on, and then the person who gets that money does not appreciate the work that went into getting that money, to be honest. And then
a million stories of that, man. Yeah.
Right. So it's a lesson for both. Like, enjoy your life, enjoy the fruits of your labor, but also kind of take care so that hopefully happens a long time from when you want it to happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Now that we got that,
live for the day, but prepare for tomorrow.
Definitely. But now that we got an icebreaker out of the way, I want to talk all things Cohiba today. So Cohiba is like one of those brands that I feel like is very reliable. Like, if you want a good smoke, I've told you this in person. The Riviera, for me, example, is like one of my favorite cigars.
All right.
But I also like to experiment with some of your higher end stuff, like the Spectre every year. The Spectre. When I go to the Dominican, the Silencio stuff, which I know is this rebranded Cohiba stuff, but it's always fun to kind of.
Well, there's some stuff that's exclusively Silencio. Both my signature releases, the limited editions, those are only available in Europe. Silencio de Oro only available in Europe and Asia, at least. So there's some things that are exclusive to Silencio.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to talk all those things because it's been so long since you've been on here that we could talk about so many different releases and things that you've done. But just for those people who maybe it's been a while since they've kind of paid attention to Cohiba or they've smoked a Cohiba, tell us a little bit about the brand and especially like where it fits into, like I know you all have some very good entry level cigars for people. And then obviously like with Spectre, some of the higher end stuff, if you want to go that route. So just tell people what's Cohiba all about.
Cohiba's about it's about the cigar. It's about experiences, and how cigars or a person's love for cigars fits into that. We don't take any shorts as it relates to what's under the hood. I mean, the tobacco is the finest that you're going to find in any classification that we use, whether it's the Cameroon, the most expensive commercially available leaf on the planet, and we get the best of it. Connecticut broadleaf, same thing, second most expensive commercially available leaf on the planet. Some of the best tobaccos you're going to get out of the Connecticut Valley region. Our Piloto Cabano, which is sort of an afterthought as it relates to filler, but we have exceptional stashes of that, Asian Piloto Cabano, Asian Tercio, so a little bit of extra element added to that. Just from top to bottom, we have incredible tobacco, but it's all about making a cigar that's going to be consistent, that's going to be something that really complements the experiences. The cigar in itself is an experience. I mean, you and I are avid cigar guys, so for me, this is always like a little escape. Wherever I'm at, whatever's going on, as long as I got a place where I could, take a torch to one, then I can find a little mini escape. But if by chance I happen to be doing something like, at an outdoor festival or on a boat, or in my instance, skiing, I like to smoke a cigar and I'm skiing. I don't do blacks or double blacks or diamonds. Stick to the greens, stick to the blues, take it easy. I like to be out there, looking at nature and nice crisp weather, but I like to enjoy a cigar. So whatever that thing is that you're doing, Cohiba is about really just sort of plussing up the experience, enhancing the experience. And that's why a lot of what you see us involved in is participating in a lot of different experiences, because we want the brand to be synonymous with that, like the luxury experience that couples with most activities you get into in life. It's just sort of a nice little element, a nice little add-on, a nice little plus up as it relates to that.
So when you talk about luxury, I mean, I think when I first got into the industry in 2010, most cigars were kind of positioned as luxury. And now, I don't know if you see that with every single brand, but how do you kind of see cigars, and especially like Cohiba, like with this luxury idea? Like, how does that fit in?
Well, I mean, so cigars by their nature, I guess, are luxury at whatever price point you're buying it at, right? Because it's something that's certainly not something that anyone needs to have. It's a choice you make to spend your disposable money, on this indulgence, and it's just that. So, as it relates specifically to Cohiba, I mean, we try to be very, very intentional as to how the brand is positioned, who we partner with, whether it be other brands or activities. It's not to be, um, standoffish or above, the fray, so to speak, because we want people to be a part of what we're doing, right? And ultimately, it's a luxury product, but it's accessible luxury. So we want people to sort of understand that they're part of um, the fabric of what we're doing. Whether they're physically there or not. You know, I'm a cigar smoker, hardcore cigar smoker, top to bottom. I'm that first and foremost, before a cigar maker, before a brand ambassador or anything. Um, so I'm representative of the people that enjoy this indulgence and this affordable luxury, this accessible luxury. And we just really wanted to just make sure that we present in that space, so that people kind of understands what it looks like. And we've been fortunate as a brand to be a part of certain events that are not typically coupled with cigars. So for us, that's a feather in the cap to all cigar lovers out there that we're in places that an indulgence that they love is appreciated in places where you wouldn't think it's appreciated.
So how do you evolve the Cohiba brand and honor its past? Because I think a lot of people, Cohiba is one of those recognizable brand names, obviously. Like you think of cigars, there's certain names that kind of hit you, you have a certain idea. So how do you balance that, the past, but also continue to push the brand into the present and then think about the future?
But just doing that, keep pushing into the present and thinking about the future. And there's no better way to do that than through expanding the audience. And I just watching, the World Cup game just went off, right? Argentina and England. I'm not particularly a big soccer fan. Honestly, I probably watch soccer once every 4 years around World Cup, and even during this time, I'm watching it as I can fit it in. But I remember being a kid, I had never seen a soccer game, whether in a park or high school or even a program on television. I'd never seen one, but I knew who Pele was. Right? He transcended soccer. You can say that about a number of people in different arenas which they achieve a certain level of greatness. And thinking about that with Cohiba, if someone who's never smoked a cigar before, never walked into a humidor before, don't know any cigar smokers, if they hear the name Cohiba and they think, oh wait, I know that's a fine cigar. Ultimately, that I think that honors the heritage, right, or the history by making sure that we're able to be a part of non-conventional cigar activities to expand the audience, expose other people to this thing that you and I love, and at the same time expose them to the red dot, so whatever experience that they're enjoying, even if they're not a cigar smoker, when they think of cigars, it'll be synonymous with something that they love, and vice versa. People that are into cigars, we want to know that this can be a part of things that you may not have typically thought that would be inviting to the cigar experience. So for me, it's just about spreading this thing that I love and this joy to people who are not very familiar with it, and doing everything that we can to make sure that this iconography is something that is synonymous with an exceptional cigar experience, whether you're a cigar smoker or not. And I think I can't think of a better way to honor the lineage and history of this brand.
I was thinking earlier this week, I was speaking to a brand owner, boutique brand owner. He was basically saying it was hard for him to kind of grow his brand in today's, uh, I don't want to say economy, but environment. Yes, there's a lot of challenges, whether it is the economy, sometimes it is how social media is regulated. But what do you say to some of those other brand owners that are, they may not have like the budget that you have, and they're trying to promote their brands, and they're just like feeling really challenged, like on how to do that, because sending out a press release is great, but it doesn't move the needle, I don't think, as much as it used to. It's like it's news for an hour, and then after that it's old news.
Yeah, no, I mean, first off, what I say is I absolutely feel you. I understand exactly what you mean. I mean, I didn't just pop in, I didn't get, airdropped into this role with Cohiba. I started my own brand 20 years ago, literally in 2006, and ran that exclusively for 11 years through all the ups and downs, right? So I know what it's like to be a small brand with limited resources, trying to break through the noise, trying to get your brand to stick, and and not get into a cycle where you're only really selling cigars when you release something new. I know exactly what that's like. I lived it, so it's just not lost on me what that experience is like. What I'll say to them is you got to show up. And I don't know specifically who you were talking to, but if you were talking to them, they're probably somebody that's been around a while and kind of, even if they haven't, they have a certain healthy respect for this business. There were certain nuts and bolts of the business that meant I had to approach it a certain way. Certain things weren't around. When I started my brand 20 years ago, there was no Facebook, certainly no Twitter or Instagram, no social media really. You had MySpace, which is really just starting to get out of being just sort of a music and artist platform to being more sort of general public stuff. But before that even really took shape, Facebook sort of came on board. So I didn't have the benefit of trying to get a lot of hype on social media or whatever. I literally had to start my car, and it was a car that had a big tank and took a lot of gas at the time, and go door to door, city to city, walk into a shop, shake hands, sit down with the shop owner or the manager, talk with them, learn what's happening in their shop, who the key guys are in the shop, maybe that I get permission to give a cigar to and whatever. So you burn through a lot of samples, you burn through a lot of money, you burn through a lot of time, but you build relationships. And I had no idea that fast forward a decade later, those relationships and the reputation I had built for myself in the business by being, a hard worker and working with a lot of different people and showing up, how that would pay off in a way I hadn't expected it, right? So nobody can give you a roadmap and say, hey, you take this route, check off this box, go here, check off this box, and that's going to lead to success. Everybody's road is different. But I know one thing, I'm happy that I came up at a time in this business where you actually had to walk in, look somebody in the face, shake a hand, put a cigar in their hand, sit down and learn about them and build a connection. There's nothing that's ever going to replace that. So again, not knowing who you were talking to as far as a boutique guy, but I can tell you this. I mean, as you probably know, I don't know that I am as adequate in this role as some may say, but a lot of people look at me as a mentor. A lot of the younger brands coming up, in particular, the young brands from young Black people coming to the business for obvious reasons, right? And what I found and talked to a lot of over the last few years, I actually talked to a lot of the newer entrees into the business. They'll even go, a lot of them will go to factories. I want to make a cigar, so I liked Nicaraguan, centric cigars at the time. Okay, so I want to make a cigar. I got on a plane and went to Nicaragua. I didn't think any other, thing about it. I didn't know there was any other route to do it aside from getting on a plane, going to a factory. Now, because of social media and how digitized things are, and how communication is so taken out of the direct interaction, you literally got some cigar brands or wannabe brands out there, and they haven't even gone to the factories. So I start there, man. Do the work, show up, go to the place that's making the product that you're gonna put in people's hands and expect them to give you money for. Show up at the retail shops that you expect to partner with you and help build your brand. There's no getting around that. We have social media, we have a lot, that's great, but at some point you have to physically show up and shake somebody's hand and sit down and enjoy the experience with them. So that's the biggest advice I give.
But I think too, like what you've done that others haven't done is that you've really taken forward like making a personality and letting people know who you are over the years. And I think that makes a big difference. There's people who do that really well in this industry, and then there's others who just put the product out there, and in a perfect world it will speak for itself, but it doesn't catch on as much as if it's for someone that you really know and that you've interacted with and you've had this relationship with. So like, what do you say to those people who maybe feel like they don't need to be the face of the brand, but then they look, but then they have this issue of, their product, whether it's cigars or any other luxury product, isn't really catching on as much?
I mean, there are a few instances out there where brands have been successful without having a face or an image attached to it. Here's a few. That's rare. That's the exception. By far, that's the exception and not the rule. Unless there's something super, super different about your brand that is going to really stand out. I mean, you have to be perfect on the price stratification, packaging. The blend has to be phenomenal. Like something has to be like, wow, this is so exceptional. Even though nobody's here selling it to me personally or showing up to do promotion events, I'm going to push this cigar, meaning the retailer or the clerks. That happens. If that's your business model, then I wish you success. It's tough. I mean, again, there are a few. I can probably name them on one hand. It's happened, but that's the exception, not the rule. But I understand it. Maybe they make an economic calculation.
Mm-hmm.
If they send it out to enough people, get enough samples, they burn up that resource, but they're not spending the resource of money to travel and so forth. They keep better margins if they do stick. I mean, maybe that's it. I get it, but it's just really hard to break through the clutter. You may luck out. Someone shows up at the show and you present your cigars there, and they take it and it catches fire in the shops. That can happen. But listen, I'm not a guru, man. I survived in this business with my brand for just over a decade before doing this. So I've been around enough to kind of see what has and hasn't worked. None of it is etched in stone. So somebody has a business model they want to try, have at it, man. I mean, good luck. Hopefully I'm wrong.
When I think back to the past, since your last appearance on Deep Cuts back in 2020, I think of like everything that's happened since then. I think of the pandemic. I think of the mini cigar boom that we experienced, which people didn't expect. And now we're kind of out of that boom. We're kind of selling into, I guess, what's normal. What's been the biggest change over the last, I know you talked about changes with yourself over the past 5 or 6 years, but what's been the biggest change in the industry, you think?
Just that sort of the boom and the crest, right? And the boom was great because it wasn't like a boom and a bust. It was a boom and a crest, right? Like um, we added a lot of new people to the category as far as enjoying cigars, and by all accounts, at least from what I could see and what I could read, we've kept them in the community, right? And we're still adding more. I guess the biggest change I've seen is as it relates to how the experience looks in the marketplace. Um, it's rare that I see or hear about a new cigar place that's opening up that's not a cigar bar, that has a full liquor experience, maybe it's music to some degree, even food. But when I first started, that was like the outlier. Like, I mean, literally, um, Atlanta is a very, very highly concentrated cigar market. And when I started 20 years ago, I mean, we had Daly's, which was an old school cigar bar. Um, Highland was opening up around the same time I was launching my brand, and there had to be another cigar bar. I can't remember, but you probably had three, if I'm being generous, maybe four cigar bars with liquor in the entire Atlanta metro area, which is multiple counties. Now I can't even keep count. Literally dozens of cigar, like, so nobody's opening up a new, and even a lot of the shops that were existing then went and applied for liquor license and added the spirits experience to it. So that's the big change that I've seen, and I think that's been partially responsible, if not largely responsible, for why we've kept so many newcomers in the community, because they experience cigars a different way. They don't sit in, you're not just going to a strip mall. Nothing wrong with this. Going to a strip mall, walking to a cigar shop that has a couple of chairs or couches, flat screen, or walk-in humidor, and you sit there, and everybody has their own little cruise or whatever. You kind of sitting there in this sort of kind of static environment, as opposed to you go to the cigar bars. They're open later. The environment is more dynamic, and there's more mixing of the sexes there, more women, more social interaction. So I think that's helped to uh, just grow the community more and more and more. So that's probably been the biggest change I've seen, is just the rise and continued growth of the actual cigar bar versus cigar shop.
I think that's interesting because when you read some of the advertising articles and stuff like that, they've been talking about the trend of spirits kind of being in a slight decline, I guess, amongst a younger generation. But with the cigar bars, I guess you're hitting a different demographic than that, so maybe you're avoiding that decline that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, overall, from what I understand, and I was just having a back and forth with a really good friend of mine. He and his wife have a wine brand that they've had for years, and he's up. They're up 25% year over year the last 3 years, and still growing. But they market, I guess, and operate in a different sort of space. You won't find their wines on the shelves necessarily at some of the package stores or whatnot. So they're marketing to a certain clientele, certain things that they sort of couple with their wine experience. So they're doing well. So if you got some of the more sort of niche and more targeted, spirits or wines out there, and who has relationships, I think there's still opportunity there. But yeah, if some of the bigger, larger platform, spirits, and certainly beers or wines or whatever, I mean, they're more reliant on newer consumers walking into the category to keep volumes up, and also, as it relates to companies that have, whether they're publicly traded or they have a bigger investor base, there's certain demands as it relates to return on investment that come into play a lot. So there's a lot of things that feed into the dynamics. But to your point, for us, we're marketing to a mature audience. for the most part, financially or a little bit better situated just by the nature of what they're expected to partake in from cigars and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that necessarily. We expected at some point the cigar volume could stay on that sugar high, from post-COVID. But yeah, it didn't crash either, right? So that tells us that the people that we're talking to and spending time with, they're still out there, still showing up, still enjoying cigars. Thus, they're still going to cigar bars and spending money on spirits and so forth. I don't know if that's enough to save the entire categories as it relates to bourbons and whatever, but for the most part, yeah, we have a pretty targeted consumer that we deal with, and for the most part, they're still indulging and enjoying life the way we like them and enjoy life.
Since you've been on as well, there's been a lot of different Cohiba releases. Not a lot, but enough to kind of obviously keep you busy and keep the brand out there. And so I want to touch on some of those releases because last time you were here, we didn't talk about them, but because they weren't in existence or weren't ready to come out yet. So like one of them I know that's been out for a while now is Riviera. So can you talk a little bit about how that brand came about and what people can expect from that brand if they haven't already smoked it?
Yeah, so as it relates to my tenure here, one of the things that I've been really intentional about, and not just intentional, actually encouraged from the brass in the organization, is to really expand the profile, and in particular for me, Nicaraguan tobacco and Nicaraguan centric profiles. That's my background as a cigar maker, and that was sort of one of the areas that we didn't have a lot of muscle in. We had the Cohiba Nicaragua, which is the only one made out of Nicaragua, out of SLE, the factory there. The second one to be made out there was Silencio, which is my private blend that we don't sell. But we didn't have any other production there, to speak of. And as far as Cohiba, but since I came on board, every cigar that we released, whether it was the Cohiba Connecticut, certainly the Spectres, they all had several leaves of Nicaraguan tobacco. Cohiba Connecticut was no different in that it had the Jalapa Valley, Ligero. Around 2020, we released the Royale, which that was made in Hadza in Central America as well, which that was the very first Cohiba ever to be made there, so, and that had, of course, Nicaraguan tobacco as well. So we wanted to just, what were we missing? A few key things. Me, historically, as a cigar maker, I love Condega tobacco, and I'd never worked with Condega tobacco in this role. So I wanted an opportunity to do that. Also, we didn't have any San Andreas wrapper. And we, as a company, STG or General Cigar, have a number of expressions that have San Andreas wrappers, but none in the Cohiba portfolio. Obviously, that's a big miss. And also, we had never made a box press cigar. So, as circumstances would have it, the very first cigar I ever made was a box press Maduro out of Esteli, Nicaragua. So it'd be 17 years later before I have a chance to do that again, and that would be in the form of the Riviera. So we just checked off a number of firsts. First box press Cohiba, first time to use San Andreas wrapper, first time to use Condega Nicaraguan tobacco, and one of only a few cigars that we make in Esteli, Nicaragua. So just by its ethos, I mean the makeup of that cigar, it speaks to an audience that we had not, authentically spoken to before. So that was kind of the reason for it, and it's been successful.
Like I said, it's one of my favorite. So
Same here. That's one. People ask me if I have a favorite. I don't have a favorite Cohiba, but there are certain ones that, like, if I'm traveling, people will always find them in my bag, right? And Riviera's one of them.
And on a different note, Rubicon. I know that came out. So talk a little bit about that one as well.
Well, I mean, we kind of talked about, the environment or the economy in a sense. And I'm not doom and gloom. Fortunately, if you think about any time in history or in modern history, from 20th century forward, anytime there was any economic, calamities or issues, tobacco and liquor always did pretty good, right? So, you don't want to be, you know, overly reflexive to minor swings in the economy, but you want to be sensitive to it. And there was a certain reality. When I came on board, I started in May of 2017. Well, 2 months before that, or 3 months before that, was the release of the Blue, which was in March of 2017, which is like one of the most successful launches the company had ever had. So the Cohiba Blue, which was an entry-level offering for Cohiba, right? But over time, over 8-9 years, price increase, price increase, price increase, price increase. It's not as attractive from a value standpoint as it was. Now, with that being said, there's been some things with the cigar as it relates to packaging, even as it relates to some of the elemental approaches that makes it a better cigar. But with that being said, still just the perfunctory price increase every year, every couple of years, puts it at a point where it's not as attractive on the shelves in the competitive set like you'd like it to be. So, yeah, we consider ourselves a luxury cigar brand, but we also consider cigars an accessible luxury, even an affordable luxury. So if we really think that way, then we want to have something that speaks to, again, an audience that we weren't speaking to, but also something that sort of in over value, right? So it's not like it's a value cigar. It's a really good cigar. I mean, and me in particular, I smoked the Robustos like crazy, right? But we wanted something that allowed people to really get into the family of brands, and something that could be a daily driver. I mean, we do well with the brand, obviously, and of course the special release stuff sells out like hotcakes. But it was hard to point to one cigar and say this cigar in our portfolio could be somebody's daily driver. So we wanted to make sure we had something that had a profile, had the craftsmanship, had the appeal, had all the things that you want in a cigar that has a long life cycle. But from a cost standpoint, it could be a daily driver. This is something and we see it, that people smoke every day. We still got the stuff that, when they want to dip out, the special release stuff, of course. But, if they want a broadleaf, if that's their jam, they're not going to find a broadleaf that's going to top the Cleveland Black. In particular, for me, the Robusto Supremo. It's exceptional sizes. If you're a Cameroon guy, you're not going to find a Cameroon that's going to speak to you better than the Red Dot does. So if you're looking for those things that are more specific in their makeup, certain leaves, we have that. But again, if you have something that financially you can make it a daily part of your rotation, we didn't have that, and Rubicon speaks to that.
Another, I think it's become an annual release, the Serie M.
Yeah. What I'm smoking right now. Yeah. So great cigar, and I'm sure you're familiar with the factory that we make this with, El Titan Bronze out of Miami. Sandy and Giselle, longtime friends, family at this point, honestly. I had the pleasure of making cigars there years and years ago, and it would be a couple years into my tenure here with Cohiba that we bring the Serie M project there. And always a fun, the special release stuff is always fun, but in particular this one is even more so because it's such a small batch project, sort of finite window in which the production needs to be done, because it needs to be aged, to be released in the spring. Very, very small production, 30,000 or so cigars, 3,000 boxes. Thematically, they look and feel the same each year, except the colors change and the nomenclature changes a little bit. But for the most part, if you see it on the shelf, oh wow, even if the colorway is different, it's Serie M. And of course, the blends are different. So just a real fun project, special project, and we got people that that has the full range of Serie M's from over the years, and that's what you like to see. Some people have their favorites that they have from over the years, but even with that, the people that are really into it, every year they want it to be a part of their catalog.
And how about the Weller? Because I know this year, Pro Cigar, feels like 5 years ago now, but it was this year, Pro Cigar. I made it to the factory, and I purposely chose the Friday tour because I figured you were going to be there doing something with Cohiba. And so you had a great presentation that you did with the Weller, the Cohiba Weller, and like a pairing with actual Weller. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this release, because it was like it's become like I think a anticipated release that you've done, and I see it selling out pretty quickly online. Like it goes online for those people who do the online retailers,
Yeah.
and it's gone. it goes in and it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, similar to the Serie M. I mean, people that are really, really into the Weller project, they have a range of them from over the years, and fortunately for the last couple of years, I don't think we did it last year. We'll release like a flight so people can get one of each from like previous years and like a gift set. But the people that are into it are into it, and in particular, if you're into Weller bourbon or really any of the weeded expressions that come out of Buffalo Trace, this is something that's a no-brainer as far as to get as a pairing. Last year, of course, was the red packaging, indicative of the Weller 107 Antique, which is what the binder, the Connecticut broadleaf binder, is aged in that barrel. You were there to actually see that. This year coming up is going to be the CYPB, which, the only frustrating thing about it is, you do these releases, and the vast majority of people that are going to buy the cigars, I mean, you won't even really see a CYPB bottle on the shelves anywhere. Like you really got to know somebody who knows somebody. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only frustrating part. And even with Antique 107, it's not as widely available. So as we work through the range of Weller, it gets more and more difficult to actually for people to get the juice to actually pair with the experience. But overall, people sort of understand that that's part of the nature of the Weller brand, right? It's hard to get just in general. So, that aside, we have a great partnership now. I don't even remember how many years now. So the first release we did was not actually aged. No component was aged in any of the Weller expressions. And that was based on when they approached us to do the project. There was a certain time frame that they wanted it released, and there wasn't enough time to get barrels down and really test the individual components, while at the same time trying to come up with a blend, to get the process nailed down to release it in a certain time frame. So we had to sort of back into it that way. But then from there on out, first couple of years, Weller 12, then Weller Foolproof, then Weller Antique 107. Next is going to be CYPB. So that's always a fun project because we get to really just kind of impart a little bit of the essence of the Weller release or expression without making a flavored cigar or an infused cigar. It's very, very, very subtle. I dare say elegant in the way we approach it. Very tedious. Some poor cats, man, have to treat that barrel like they treat a cologne, rotating out to in to out for the leaves, so that no part of the selection of leaves get too much of the bourbon off of the inside of the barrel, but at the same time gets a chance to age and the sort of aroma of it. So it's very tedious, but it's a fun project, and people look forward to it, man. So and even I do, right? Just to kind of see how it's going to compare to the previous release, and work out a little color coded collection, man. Humidor. So it's a fun project, and people look forward to it. And Sazerac and Buffalo Trace has been really, really good partners to work with in that regard. Aside from not giving us any gratis product, like I don't get any extra vig as it relates to the bourbon or anything like that. But aside from that, they're terrific partners to work with.
We couldn't have a conversation about Cohiba without talking about Spectre, which becomes a spectacle every year, because I wonder if it's a challenge for you to have to outdo yourself in terms of packaging every year, because more people look forward to the packaging more so almost than the cigar. I mean, the cigar is great, but the packaging is like by far like one of like I think the best parts of that release that people just look forward to every single year. It's like, what are they going to do this year?
Yeah. So to your question, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, to be honest. So the packaging, fortunately, I'm not a packaging designer, so there's different teams working on concepts of the packaging, and and myself along with a couple other people literally decide what's going to be greenlit.
Mhm.
But the biggest part of that for me, the biggest headache is just kind of trying to figure out, okay, like what's, without just being like totally like, out of space, what's going to work, right? So, but I'm not the person that come up with the ideas. I'm the person that's assessing the ideas. Me and a couple other people. So that part is a pain, but not as much as a pain as actually coming up with a plan. That's when we first started off. It was like, I'm not just that. It's still fun. Don't get me wrong. When we first started off, it was like we'd never done it, and they were like, we don't care what it's going to cost. Have fun with it. Talk to Ernest. Who's our, like, he's our Indiana Jones for tobacco. And then you start down this path of finding all this unicorn tobacco. And for the first few years, you're having fun with it. But when you get 5 years in, it's like, man, it's getting harder and harder and harder. Fortunately, we're a big company, have a lot of tobacco still sitting around. They play differently. Like initially, the very first one we did, the special tobacco in that was Piloto Cubano, which is a filler. Like, people don't think much about it, but it was at the time 18 or 19-year-old Piloto Cubano, Asian tercios. Then I don't know if it was the next one after that or maybe two after that. We had a 13-year-old Jalapa rapper, and one we had Anaparaka rapper, finished 2008. So sometimes it's filler, sometimes it's rapper, but just finding that special component that makes that cigar special for that year is not easy. And find a component. Okay, well, you got the component, but you still got to blend the cigar. That's going to be tasty. So yeah, that's a difficult project. I will not lie. I will not lie.
So we just talked about all these different cigar lines from Cohiba. When you're talking to like consumers and retailers, is there a misconception that comes up a lot that people have about Cohiba?
You know what the biggest misconception is? I do events in invariably, like if I'm in a certain area, somebody's gonna come up and say, like, wow, I didn't know I could get Cohiba. It blows me away, dude. Blows me away. So and actually, it's usually more around the holiday times. So maybe that's kind of more about people who maybe buy big around the holidays and haven't really, maybe they're more occasional guys during the year. But yeah, I mean, still, I'm just thinking, like, if you've been smoking cigars for more than a couple of years, you got to know that Red Dot Cohiba is like, it's been on the market now certainly twice as long as I've been smoking cigars, right? So that's the thing that trips me out more than anything. But you still get the misconception, in my opinion, that some smokers, which again, I'm a cigar smoker first, and I was a boutique guy, right? Like so I was and still a nerd, was a nerd for cigars. So there's some people that kind of like hardcore cigar geeks. Over the last few years, they've sort of waken up to like, oh wow, like Cohiba's not all hat no cattle. Like there's some muscle under it. Like if you break down the cigars that we have on the shelves, I mean, we got some pretty cool tobacco that make these cigars what they are. And some people it's more celebratory. Some people it's more status. Whatever it is, they're buying it and it makes them feel good. I'm cool. But when people sort of take a step back and just look at the component and break the cigars down, they're like, yo, okay, I get it. And that's what I'm most proud of.
I'm trying to think of how to phrase the question, but it's like about you come up with all these different ideas for different Cohibas. Has there ever been like ideas that have not moved forward? Like what's some of the like an idea, because we talk about big releases, and I think about like music people, like in the music industry, like they'll have something that they're working on, and for some reason it just doesn't come out to
Well,
other people. So has there been like that, something like that for Cohiba?
all the time, but not like you think. So that's usually like there are a lot of songs that don't make the album, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
what's like if you were here now, we step inside my house, we go down to my basement area where I got a rolling room. Like I'm always working on. So well, not always. I haven't done a lot of it in the last year, to be honest, just with travel. But there was a time where I was really like hot and heavy, just working on blends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of them turn into something, some of them don't. And conversely, like the factory, we have incredible cigar makers at the factory. They'll be working on blends and they'll send stuff up, and I see it on paper when I'm down. And so we go back and forth on some of these and say, wow, this is really good, but it's not right for this. Like it's not right for this album. It's not right to be released now. So we got a lot of unreleased songs. And then things that sort of look a certain way or named a certain way, they start off as different names. Even Spectre. Spectre started off as, it started off internally because it was sort of hush-hush. We were calling it the Ghost Cigar. Well, clearly we couldn't do Ghost because you have the Gurkha Ghost. Then we was like, okay, well, maybe Phantom, because we wanted to be something that was kind of dark, elusive, hard to see, blah, blah, blah. And started down that road and realized that we couldn't use that. And I don't remember, who has that mark or whatever. So it ended up landing on Spectre, and that's more of a normal process. Like we'll have a name and sort of a concept of the cigar, but by the time it hits the market, because of IP issues or different things, it has a different name and maybe looks a little different in its packaging. But that's really about it. Like, because once we say, hey, we're going to release, a cigar that fits this profile, whether it's price point, whether it's tobacco makeup or things of that nature. Once that concept is there, for the most part, that cigar is going to be released. So, but along the way, a lot of things about it can change. So that's probably the closest sort of scenarios that speak to your question.
So when you're approaching blending, is it more of an art form? Is it a science? Is it like a form of storytelling? Like, how do you approach it?
It's different now, because I work for a large company, so usually it's instructive, not the blend itself, but like, hey, going back a few years ago, but 2018, it's like, hey, we need to release a Connecticut. We've never had a Connecticut. Okay, so get about working. Next year, Cleveland, Connecticut is released. Kind of same with Rubicon. We need cigar. Blue is. We raise price. We need to have something that's in this space that speaks to a certain. So we sort of blend and work to that, as opposed to before. When I just on my own, I could have any old whim. If I just ran across some tobacco or a blend that I like, okay, I want to do something with this. There was no, which this way probably actually makes more sense because you're trying not to cannibalize, what you have on the shelves already. Before it was just kind of like really just sort of passion and palate. Now it's more thought out. It needs to sort of fit in the range of products. So it's more instructive. But once you get into it, I still say it's more art. I mean, certainly a science in that, the tobacco is the tobacco. It's going to perform a certain way. But the art is like, how do you blend those together to get what you want, right? So I guess in that way, it's more art because, you still don't know. Like I would know. You think I would take a certain range of tobaccos. Ecuador Havana wrapper, Connecticut broadleaf binder, Condega Ligero, Seco Peruviano as a combustion filler. I don't know, maybe Jalapa or maybe Esalibi. Like I know how these tobaccos taste individually, so I can back into it. In theory, you put those together, it's going to get this. Not always the case. Not even close to the case sometimes. And even with that, like if you work on a blend and you get it like off of the table, and the experiences are different. If I'm in Miami at Altair Bronze, literally you can get the cigar, you roll it, and taste it right there. Or if I'm here, I can roll it and taste it right there. And you may think, even though it's wet, obviously hasn't dried and married out, but you get the essence of it. It's gonna be good. And what I'll do here is I'll put one away. I'll put it away and let it dry out 24 hours and taste it again, and you get a better idea. But even with that, you may think, man, this is really going to be good, and it ages out, 4 or 5 weeks later, and it's nothing like you expected, and sometimes not even good. So it's like, man, back to the drawing board. So yeah, it's a lot of art and a lot of patience, man. Because again, in theory, you know how stuff should perform, but it just doesn't always happen that way. So it's a lot of just having time and patience. It's just, okay, let me try this. At least that's how I've gone about it. Now, I kind of know if we're coming out with something, depending on what the company wants. Okay, I know where we should at least start. Like, these things need to be a part of it as far as the tobaccos, and then we'll figure out the rest from there. And then that's dealing with our master blenders that we have, whether it's Augustine in Honduras or Yuri and in the DR. We work collaboratively, but I'd be like, okay, well, this needs to be a part of it. Every cigar has, it's like a song has like a chord to it, like a key. Cigars are kind of the same way. So there's a certain key or core I like to be in with whatever I do as far as cigars, and we work around that for the most part.
One of the wrap-up questions for people who listen to this, they might hear thrown around the word luxury a lot, which can be intimidating if you're new to cigars, because you'll think, oh, luxury, that's money, or that's a little intimidating to me. So for those people who are kind of newer to cigars and they're approaching like Cohiba, this luxury brand, like, what's your advice to them for like picking up like their first Cohiba cigar? Like, how should they approach it?
But they should approach it like it. So we own the moniker experiential luxury, but the category is a luxury category, right? Like you're talking about, this is not something that you have to do. You don't have to spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 bucks on a cigar. It's something you choose to do. And in doing that, it's your escape, whether it's something you're doing on your deck by yourself, on vacation on the beach by yourself, or you're doing it in a cigar shop with some buddies watching television, or you're in a cigar bar enjoying some music or dancing with your significant other. It's a luxury product overall. So just put that in your head when you go into it. You're like it's an affordable luxury. Cigars at every level, it's an affordable luxury. This is optional. This is not bread. This is not water. This is an optional activity that you're deciding to dedicate your time to indulge in. It's absolutely an indulgence. So just because we own the tagline "Experience Luxury," you don't have to look at it any differently and be intimidated. I like to think that the experience that we offer, is a little bit set apart. But that's not a bad thing, and it's certainly not something that should be off-putting or limiting as far as people getting into it. It's not. It's just. It's a dried up, aged leaf, man. Rolled up that we're going to burn up. Whether it's $30 or $15 or whatever, it's all the same. We're burning up money. So you just decide how much you want to burn up for that time, and hopefully we have something in the portfolio that tempts your palate. That's it.
Do you have a philosophy that you live or work by?
This is going back to how we started the conversation. I truly do, and not haphazardly or not cutting corners or whatever, but sense of urgency is one of my sort of core tenets in everything if it's worth doing, it's worth doing now, and it's worth doing right. Because I just, man, listen. I don't know how old you are, but I don't know. I think about it so much now, man. I guess because I take care of my mom, have my father-in-law, and I've lost some people, so I just think about like the what ifs, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look back and say, man, I wish I had done this, or wish I had done that. And I'm not talking about climbing a mountain or whatever. That's your thing. That's fine. I mean, it's not thrill seeking and things like that. But it's like I think about sense of urgency as it relates to doing stuff that's substantive, experiencing life, because that's what it's about. It's about experiences, right? I mean, even with me, if you want to get money, money is something that gives you access to experiences. To however grand or however humble those experiences are, it all comes back to how you want to experience life. So I approach that with a sense of urgency, and I think about like legacy, like not some grandiose way, but more like for the people that know me and the people I know and love, like what's your mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought that being in cigars would be. It was just something I loved. Like I love doing it, and it's great if you're doing something that you do whether or not you made any money at it. I would still be involved in cigars. Thank God I make money at it. But I never thought that this would be like kind of a thing that's a legacy thing, so to speak. But as I've been in this industry 20 years, and I've seen companies and people come and go, and I see how what we do in this industry permeates outside of just our bubble, and how people view it, and in particular how people view some things that I do. I take it with a certain seriousness, not to get sanguine or whatever, but just I think about it more. It's a lot deeper than I would have thought 20 years ago when I was doing cigar events, right? So I think about that, but I think about for the most part, like getting it done, man. There's things that I'm working on, that are going to sort of be a part of the quilt, part of the fabric of what I am in this space. But I do look at things from a standpoint of time. Really do. I really do. So sense of urgency for me, like don't wait, man. For something you want to do, something you're thinking about, something you've thought about, you'll look up and time has passed, man, and you missed the window. So for me, I don't have a philosophy necessarily, but a core tenet to the way I operate in life is sense of urgency.
I want you to finish this sentence. Sean Williams is
aware. I'm aware. I'm not. And I hope this has been an interesting interview. It's been more, reflective than I would have thought. And I don't want to, it should be deep. I'm drinking a fine rum from Spain, smoking a beautiful cigar. Like we should be chilling, but yeah, I'm none of this is lost on me. Like I'm aware that I'm fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. I'm fortunate to have a wonderful family. I'm fortunate to have my health. And I joke, I've lived long enough to have done a lot of things, man. And I promise you, I've done a lot worse things for a lot less money. So to be in this position and to be given, some of the opportunities I've been given to meet some of the people I've been able to meet, and impact some people in ways that I really didn't think didn't think this would impact people. It's really a blessing, so it's not lost on me. I'm aware of how fortunate I am, because there are a lot of other people that are not in this place and would really relish an opportunity like I've, and not just as the Cohiba guy, but just my life in general, man. I mean, my role in Cohiba is just a part of this fabric that makes up my life, but it's a big part. But I'm just aware and thankful for all the components that make my life what it is, man. I'm fortunate.
Well, I feel fortunate to have had you back on Deep Cuts. We have to do this again, maybe not 5 years from now, but
Yeah.
definitely sooner on my part. So
Sooner rather than later.
Yes, that I want you to sit tight because we have a couple more things to film before we're done for today. But I want to thank everyone for listening and watching this part of the interview. If you missed any part of it and you want to see the whole thing or any of the past interviews we've done here on Deep Cuts Live, you can do so at youtube.com/Deep Cuts Live. Make sure you follow us. We're on all the different platforms, on all the different podcasting platforms as well. Leave a review, leave a comment. And until next time.